I struggled. I struggled very hard in making this video because there is a part of me that appreciates this film, at least what it seems like Zack Snyder set out to do, what story he was trying to tell with these characters. I feel like there are some good ideas in this movie. I feel like there are some great sequences and great fights and great visuals in this movie for sure. But I ultimately was let down walking out of the screening for this when the ultimate cut came out on Blu ray months later, and that cut was rated R. That cut was almost 3 hours long. It certainly made the movie better, but there are still major issues with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Bruce Wayne's origin story yet again. How many goddamn times do we need to see Bruce Wayne's parents be murdered? It's almost like as many times as we've seen Uncle Ben get shot in a Spider-Man movie. Except, honestly, we've seen the Waynes get killed more times. We've seen this for decades. We've seen this in multiple films. We just got done seeing it in Batman Begins not that long before this. And quite possibly, in my opinion, is the best Bruce Wayne story, origin story that we've ever seen on film. Why recreate that? Why retell that? It's still fresh in our minds. It's still told in a great way. Showing his parents be killed in a slow motion flashback at the beginning of this feels very unnecessary, especially when this story will start with an older Bruce Wayne, an older Batman. I don't think his parents being murdered has really anything to do with where Bruce Wayne is at in his life at this point. It just seemed like Snyder jumped at the chance to be able to shoot his version of the Wayne parents being killed. So, all right, fine. Let's skip ahead to I guess it is, yes, the end of Man of Steel. It's the big showdown, the big battle, war with Zod versus Superman. I think this is quite possibly the best part of this movie. A great way to actually start the film. When this was in the trailers, I thought, wow, this is genius. This is brilliant. This is what is going to get the butts in the seats. I'm talking about showing Bruce Wayne being in Metropolis, witnessing the fight between Superman and Zod, seeing up close and firsthand what damage and destruction these two Kryptonians caused in Metropolis, the people who were injured and killed, very reminiscent of 9/11 being ground level. It seemed like, whether they want to admit it or not, it seemed like this was a direct response to people who were upset, who were pissed about the Zod fight and how much destruction there was, how much casualties there surely was. I remember understanding that complaint, but not really feeling it myself because I was just so goddamn happy to see Superman punch something finally in a film. But it was very justified. It made a lot of sense to be upset or to complain about it, and to have those complaints directly addressed in this film, and to have that be the main reason, the starting reason for why Batman hates Superman, for why Batman wants to go after Superman. He doesn't trust Superman. He doesn't trust the idea of an alien who's that powerful, who has all of that ability to be good. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't see it as a real possibility. And so he goes on this quest to try to neutralize what he sees as a threat. Ben Affleck's dialogue and delivery when he's talking to Alfred about how he can't take the chance on Superman going apeshit one day and wanting to kill everyone. I think that's genius. I think that's awesome. But the problem is that that's not really why these two end up fighting, is it? It was a great setup. It was delivered right to you on a silver platter. Snyder and Goyer, especially because Goyer wrote this movie. But yeah, this was a great starting point, but it just wasn't followed through the way that it should have been. Clark Kent, the reason why Clark Kent wants to fight Batman isn't really explained in the theatrical cut. A lot of Clark's scenes of him investigating, going to Gotham, interviewing people, finding out that Batman brands people, and that branding, once they're put in prison, gets them killed. It's almost like an okay symbol for other inmates to kill said person. We don't really know. It's not explored enough for us to know if Bruce Wayne is aware of that, or if just that's something that maybe Lex arranges indirectly so that it just makes Batman look more vengeful than he really is. We do get a Batman that kills criminals, and I know some people like that. Some people prefer a Batman that kills. I hate it. I do. I hate it. As much as I like Ben Affleck's performance, as much as I love how he looks as both Bruce Wayne and Batman, there is a side by side shot of Bruce Wayne with Ben Affleck and Bruce Wayne from the animated Batman series, and how much it looks exactly the same. I just hate the fact that we see Batman openly shooting people with guns in his Batmobile, blowing up criminals in their cars. For me, that's just not my Batman. If you want to tell the story to where Batman just is at the age and at the point in his life where he just doesn't care anymore, you could tell that story, but just tell it better. Have it be a huge central point of this plot. Maybe the existence of metahumans and superpowered people has him so intimidated that he feels like he has to kill. But again, it's not explained, it's not explored. It's just something that I have to sort of guess and figure out on my own, that maybe this is why the character has made such a drastic change in his routine, in his lifestyle. Let's talk about the very first meeting between Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. There is a special gala event going on in Metropolis. Bruce Wayne shows up there. The moment when Clark Kent looks at Bruce coming out of his car, and he says to the photographer next to him, "Hey, who is that?" Really? And the guy has to tell him that he's Bruce Wayne. How does Clark Kent, who's a reporter, even if you just go off of him working for the Daily Planet, or the fact that he's just Superman and he should know things around the world as far as rich billionaires and celebrities, how in the hell does he not know who Bruce Wayne is? That just doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. That just doesn't seem like it computes at all. It just seemed like a moment to make Clark look a little dumber than he should be. Jesse Eisenberg, this is where we really get introduced to Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, and I hate Jesse Eisenberg in this role. I do. He is, as many issues as this movie has, as many issues as I am about to get into and continue with, Jesse Eisenberg is number one. He is. If this role was recast, the original choice, or at least the original brainstormed idea and actor for this role for Lex Luthor was Bryan Cranston. I cannot believe that they chose not to go for Bryan Cranston. I cannot believe that Eisenberg was chosen instead. Not just the age thing, but the acting, the goofiness, the over the topness that Eisenberg brings to this role. I don't see why that was more appealing. I don't see why this seemed like the better choice for Snyder to make. What the hell he was thinking. When you get to that Jolly Rancher scene where Eisenberg is shoving candy into this guy's mouth and just being non-threatening, being goofy, being silly, being just dumb. This is the absolute worst portrayal of Lex Luthor I have ever seen in any medium ever. especially when you think about the future and how many times this role should be used in future films. And now at this point, I don't ever want to see this character used ever again, especially if it's played by Eisenberg. We get the infamous Batman nightmare scene, which I say infamous because aesthetically and on paper and even visually, this looks great. It does. It's apocalyptic. It's a future event. Yeah, it's Bruce Wayne dreaming, but we find out that it's actually a alternate timeline future of if Darkseid brought his parademons to Earth, caused some mayhem and destruction, and just how far gone the world would be. Batman and his gang are trying to stop this, but Batman gets overpowered. We see an evil Superman, who I guess is working for Darkseid, takes off Batman's mask. I remember seeing that in a trailer and thinking, holy shit, this is going to be epic. And you see Superman in this nightmare, lasering people down, killing them with no mercy. It's scary to think of an evil Superman, and it's definitely a future event that you want to try to prevent. It adds fuel to the fire for why Batman thinks he needs to stop Superman. And then you have this mindfuck of a moment where future Barry Allen shows up. I guess this part wasn't a dream, even though Bruce Wayne wakes up again after the conversation, where future Barry Allen warns Bruce Wayne that not only does he need to save Superman, but that Lois Lane herself is the key to doing so. It's obviously meant to be confusing. I remember seeing this in the theater and thinking, what the fuck? And unfortunately, it's not really this movie's fault for how random and out of place this scene feels, because the theatrical cut of Justice League did not follow through with this like it should have. I should talk about Lex Luthor, though, and his plan, because at the beginning of the movie, you see that he hires the KG Beast to kill a bunch of people, burn the bodies, and make it look like Superman killed them all. Which I don't know how shooting a bunch of people and then just burning the bodies lets everyone think that Superman killed them, because wouldn't they still find the bullets in the bodies? I don't know. Maybe burning the body kills all that evidence. Maybe I'm just dumb, but it feels like a very flimsy type plan to frame him. You also have the moment in that scene where they kill Jimmy Olsen. The theatrical cut, yeah, he doesn't say that his name's Jimmy Olsen, but in the ultimate 3 hour cut, he does say Jimmy Olsen, and he is shot in the face. And man, that sucks. It just feels like a big FU to not only the Jimmy Olsen character, but just certain side characters that were important to the Superman mythology. No, we can just kill them off for the shock factor, because why not? Lex Luthor also, he blows up the courtroom, and it's mostly in order to kill the senator, who Finch, who was very much against Lex wanting to do some experiments. And this is fine. It makes sense, I guess, with why he wants to kill her and her alone. But you also have these characters in the same courtroom that end up dying as well, like Scoot McNairy's character, who you saw that he was there on ground level in the battle with Superman and Zod. He lost his legs, and thus he has this huge hatred for Superman. You see earlier that he defaced a statue that was paying tribute to Superman. And I thought that was somewhat interesting to have somebody with that point of view, and to have us understand why he would have such hatred for a character that should be beloved. But it doesn't really go anywhere. He's just somebody who has this hate. He has no legs. Lex Luthor comes across him and just uses him to get into this courtroom and store the bomb in. Yeah, sure, fine. He's used by Lex, and I guess that's ultimately his purpose. But we could have done so much more with Scoot McNairy, especially given the actor being a good actor. I honestly thought that this was leading towards him becoming Metallo, and I think that would have made a lot more sense for our characters to be facing and fighting Metallo at the end of this movie instead of who they fight. Also, in this courtroom, and who ends up getting blown up and dying, completely wasted, Mercy Graves. This was a character that was completely created and made up for the Superman animated series. She was Lex Luthor's female bodyguard. How badass and awesome was it to have her in that show? I think this actress, yeah, she didn't talk a lot, and yeah, she was a little different from the animated character, but it was still great to have her present here. It was still great to have a version of her, a take on her. And she's only in a couple of scenes before Lex just leaves her there, doesn't tell her what his plan is, and lets her die. It was out of character. It doesn't make any sense why he would sacrifice her in that way. And it doesn't make any sense why Snyder would put her in this movie just to be killed as quick as she was. How does that make fans happy when you see that? Throughout the film, you see Bruce Wayne get a bunch of letters and threats that is taunting him and making him think that he's not doing enough to go after Superman, that he's letting Superman kill all these people. Sure, fine, that could be interesting if you want to have something that pushes Bruce Wayne over the edge, but I feel like he would be a lot smarter than that. Wouldn't he wonder who the hell is sending him this stuff? Who knows that he is Batman because of the text and the wording that is put in these letters? It's clear that whoever is sending him this knows who he is. He doesn't seem to be worried about that. He doesn't seem to be worried about who's doing it. He just seems to care about what the letters are saying themselves. Stop Superman. Lex ends up kidnapping Martha Kent, and he blackmails Superman into fighting Batman to the death. And this is the epitome of laziness. This is something that I cannot believe they had. Made Lex be the sole reason why these two fight. You already had built-in reasons for why Batman should fight him. You already had built-in reasons for why Superman might not be for what Batman does, his style, his tactics, the fact that Batman kills. How hypocritical this is for Batman to be wary of Superman, to not trust Superman, thinking that Superman is so dangerous, where Superman, Clark, can go up to Batman and say, look, dude, you, in fact, do kill people. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You either, if you're not snapping necks yourself, if you're not blowing up people yourself, you're branding them, which ends up getting them killed, imprisoned. A built-in ideological difference that these two characters could have and should have. Clark Kent, Superman, barely gets anything to do as far as character motivations, as far as character arc, as far as character growth. It's a shame that the only Man of Steel sequel, technically, that we've had at this point isn't even that. It sucks. I think Henry Cavill deserves better. I think Clark Kent, the Superman character, deserves better. You could make the argument that Snyder already felt like he reintroduced Superman to his DCEU in Man of Steel, and maybe he felt like he had to spend more time on Batman, reintroducing Batman, but I highly disagree. Who doesn't know the story of Batman? Sure, this is a different Batman, this is an older Batman, this is a more angry Batman, but you're spending time on his origins, his backstory, his parents getting shot. That's eating up so much precious time that should have been dedicated to Clark Kent, especially when you have moments of Clark just looking at the news, seeing the world tear him apart and say how wrong he is for just existing. The one scene that's halfway decent is this dream sequence of Clark talking to Jonathan Kent, Kevin Costner, coming back for the one scene. It's nice, but ultimately, all it does is just remind me of the moment in Man of Steel that I hate the most. I'm talking about Jonathan Kent's death, the fact that they changed it from a heart attack in the original movie to now just being a random hurricane that to me doesn't make as much sense or doesn't have as much emotional weight as Clark not physically being able to do anything to save him from a heart attack, to him having to make the choice to not do anything and just let his father die, which is something that I do not think Clark would ever do. I do think he would have risked his identity to save him, and especially for their damn dog. I mean, come on, people. Amy Adams as Lois Lane is in this film, and all she really has to do, other than being saved by Superman 2 or 3 times, is that she is investigating the bullet that was used in the desert, and she wants to prove that these bullets are connected to Lex Luthor and his corporation. She wants to prove that it shows that Clark, that Superman, did not kill anyone in the desert like people think. You see a bunch of news stories of people not trusting Superman and not knowing if he's doing good. And this makes sense for Lois to want to prove that he's innocent, although we never really see the outcome of it. This investigation doesn't really prove anything because Lex incriminates himself when he takes credit, really, for creating Doomsday. But before we get there, we see an armored suit Batman. He really just kicks Superman's ass. This fight, as cool as it was to at least finally get to the main event, or at least what the movie is promising, judging by the title, right? Batman v Superman. This is what we want, is to see them fight, and the fight only lasts a couple of minutes, if we're being honest. Most of the fight is Batman just kicking Superman's ass with the kryptonite weapons, and Superman just not really being able to follow through with it. I think it's a little disappointing. I think it should have gone a lot longer. I think we should have shown a little more of Superman being a badass, or Superman being more capable than this. Everyone talks about it, so I guess we can't ignore the Martha scene. The Martha scene where Superman, before it looks like he's about to die, because Batman is so willing to kill, like we said, Superman tells Batman to save Martha because, like we all know, his mother, Martha Kent, is kidnapped. And this triggers something in Batman because Bruce Wayne's mother is also named Martha. It's funny that after all of these years, this moment is the first time I ever noticed that these two, their mothers, have the same name. Ultimately, who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? It's not this huge, remarkable, mind blowing of a thing. It just is more of a coincidence. But okay, fine. We have Batman yelling, "Why did you say that name, Martha?" And it's like, even if you want to defend this movie, even if you want to say no, this movie's great, no, you're nitpicking. You can't really defend that. You can't defend Bruce Wayne, Batman, yelling the name Martha, yelling over the fact that Superman says the name Martha. I guess him saying he has a mother with the same name as him reminds Batman that Superman at least appears human, or can be human, or isn't the monster that he previously thought he was. And that gets the two of them to team up, I guess? Question mark? Diana Prince, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. This is her very first appearance as the character. I think there was a lot of skepticism regarding this casting and if Gal Gadot could pull it off. I thought she was fine, though. I thought she had a couple of good scenes that built up towards the moment where it's a little weird that they say that Diana hasn't been Wonder Woman for almost 100 years. Because you think, what? Some hero that she stopped being Wonder Woman, that she stopped saving people for 100 years. In fact, this was so annoying to even Patty Jenkins that she completely ignored this. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't fit the character. And that's very much true here. Wonder Woman teams with Batman and Superman to fight Doomsday. Wonder Woman, this is her moment. That Hans Zimmer theme that he creates for her is badass. I think she looks great in the costume. I think how she stands her own against a creature like Doomsday is very impressive, and I think it introduces the Wonder Woman character very well. The end of the movie, we get Doomsday. I don't even mind the fact that this is Lex Luthor creating Doomsday based off of Zod's DNA and whatnot. That's kind of cool, kind of interesting, but it's the look. The design of Doomsday that I hate the most, the fact that he looks like a turd in the wind, as one character might put it. He does. He looks like shit. I'm not saying Doomsday is supposed to look immaculate and beautiful and gorgeous, but there's just a certain badass edge, scary look to him that's already been established as far as having the spikes and the bones sticking out of his face, sticking out of his back. People say that, oh, this is just the early version of Doomsday, and over time you see the spikes grow. Sure, but it's still not that many spikes. It's not. It's not like by the end of the fight, he looks like the Doomsday that I'm talking about. No, he still looked like shit all the way through. The fight itself, yes, it was cool to see Superman fight Doomsday. It was definitely something that I've been dying to see in live action for a long time, although I would not have done it in just the second Superman movie that we've done. I think that this could have been saved for a third in a Man of Steel trilogy, or at the very least, a first installment in the Justice League movie where the whole Justice League has to face Doomsday, because they do end up doing the death of Superman, which once again, I can't believe they did it so early. Yes, it's a moment. Yes, it's huge in the comics history and huge to the Superman history, but it was not earned. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to be sad. There was a part of me that was a little sad, but not the emotional point that I think they wanted me to feel. I wasn't crying. There wasn't really anybody in the theater crying, if I'm being honest. And then we get the funeral scene of Clark, and I guess simultaneously the world mourns Superman and Clark Kent. The very last shot of the ground, the dirt rising, which telegraphs that Superman isn't going to stay dead. He will come back. Sure, fine. I guess it's a tease. But then when you see how Superman came back to life and how it has nothing to do with the ground rising and how that just didn't really make any sense ultimately, I don't know. This film, look, do I hate it? Do I think it's the worst, horrible piece of crap? Is it the worst DCEU movie ever? No, it's not. But I still think that this should have been better. This is Batman fighting Superman, two of the biggest superheroes, not just in DC, but superheroes, period. And I just feel like they fumbled the ball. I feel like they had so much potential. They had so much more that they could have done, and they failed. They failed us comic book nerds. To be honest, there was a lot more to come. Stay tuned. So, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, of me ranting about Batman v Superman? Are you pissed? I'm sure some people are going to be pissed. I'm sure I'm sticking my neck out on the line to make a video like this, but I had to be honest. I had to talk about all of the things about this movie that I hate the most, even though I can every once in a blue moon sit down and watch it and try to cherry pick the little things that I do enjoy. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!